Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know I review many photographic, audio and video related products. And if you're new here, well, that's exactly what I do. Now today, I'm not reviewing a product as such. I want to explain a cine film transfer process. I've done this many times before, but I'm being asked by many people, what is the difference between standard 8 and super 8? Because on the surface, they look exactly the same. They're actually very different indeed, although the scanning process on my scanner is very similar for both standard 8 and super 8. But standard 8 came out in 1932, it could have been 1933, and it ran right the way through to 1965. So that's many years ago. So obviously you may bring into me some standard 8 film that was shot in the 1930s, but that went through the camera in a very different way to what super 8 does. Now super 8 film is a cartridge based film that goes in cameras such as this. This is a more luxurious camera. It's even got a proper handle. Look at that, fold away handle. What a great piece of kit this would have been back in the 60s, 70s. And super 8 film basically was a cartridge that went inside the camera, and it ran for about 4.5 minutes, 4 to 4.5 minutes, and it ran at about 18 frames. Well, not about, it did run. Silent film ran at 18 frames a second, and that's what we used to use back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, because super 8 came out in 1965. It was invented and introduced by Eastman Kodak, and then many other companies, you know, followed that same format, because the cartridge based loading was very easy for the consumer to load. You literally did just drop the cartridge into the camera and away you went. And that was a more expensive camera. Kodak also made these really cheapy plastic sort of cameras, nothing great, a trigger switch on the front there, and again had the cartridge based system on the side here. Most cameras were silent film, so you had no way of recording sound. I guess some people would have used a separate sound recorder, would have been an open reel tape based recorder in the day, although they did later on introduce sound super 8 film, which was more expensive to buy, and the cameras were a lot more expensive and they were a lot bulkier. So the vast majority of film that I convert is, well, standard 8 and super 8 silent film. Now you can tell the difference if you've got a 50-foot spool, because when it comes back from the lab, the standard 8 and super 8 come back on these little 50-foot spools. Now the super 8s have got a big hole in the centre there for putting on your projector, and the standard 8s have a smaller hole in the centre, so you can see the difference there. That's how I initially tell the difference between the two. It's a very quick way of telling the difference between a 50-foot super 8 reel, which is that one, and a 50-foot standard 8 reel. But the other way of telling the difference is looking at the actual sprockets. Now on this video, it's incredibly difficult, I think, for you guys and girls to see the difference in the sprocket size, but I'll do my best to show you. So that's super 8 film, very small sprockets on the super 8 film. I say probably very difficult for you to see that, but that's you know, small sprockets on a super 8 film. On a standard 8 film, the sprockets are much bigger. So again, you're probably not going to be able to tell the difference between that and that. But there is one is smaller than the other. I can see that from where I'm sat, but whether the camera's picking that up, I have no idea. But effectively, standard 8's got bigger sprockets and super 8's got smaller sprockets. What used to happen in the lab, when you shot a standard 8 film in the camera, I haven't got a standard 8 camera here to show you, but it wasn't a cartridge based system, it was a spool. So it was basically 16mm in width. So the standard 8 film that you see here that's come back from the lab would have actually been twice the width, and it would have sprockets down both sides, and I'll tell you why it would have done. It would have had sprockets down both sides, and that 16mm film would have been on a 25-foot spool. So that 25-foot spool would have gone in the camera onto an empty spool, and then that would have run for about 2 minutes. Then what you did, you swapped it over. So you took it out of the camera, put it back in, swapped it round, and run that through for 2 minutes. So you've ended up with one 16mm film exposed on both sides. And what the lab did, they used to splice it down the middle then join it together so you'd have so you'd end up with a 50-foot spool. Hence the reason it would be sent back to the customer, usually in these yellow packages, either standard 8 or super 8, end up in these yellow packages, come back to the customer like that. Now obviously many customers would actually then splice the smaller reels onto bigger reels, be it 200-foot reels or 400-foot, sometimes even 600-foot reels, and you can't really tell whether they're super 8 or standard 8 by looking at the reel, because people bought different reels, whether it be designed for super 8 or standard 8, because they fitted. Now regarding my scanner, my scanner and my software will scan regular 8 and super 8. That's the other thing with standard 8 film. It was known as regular 8, 8mm, super 8 and double 8. So any of those are exactly the same. So regular 8, standard 8, double 8 and 8 are all the same format, and then super 8 is a format on its own. And then Fuji, in their wisdom, back in the 60s, it could have been 70s, developed single 8, which is yet another type of 8mm film, but it isn't compatible with the regular 8 and super 8 that we see here. But my scanner will scan Fuji single 8 films. So what we have here set up on my scanner is a regular 8 film that's ready to run through the scanner. Now what I have to do, I have to reset all the focus mechanism, because the film actually is narrower on a regular 8 film than it is on a super 8. Super 8 covers more of the actual width of the 8mm film than what standard 8 film does, because the sprocket holes take up quite a bit of the width of standard 8 film, so you have to move the lens closer into the into the plane of a film, the film plane, as it were. Have to do that. We have to set the machine to regular 8 and set the software to regular 8, and then once you've done that, it works a treat. Now I do have a service where I offer cleaning of the films. That's done manually by hand. Let's just get this rolling and I'll show you. Actually no, I've got to keep an eye on it, so I won't get that rolling in just a minute. I'll show you the stuff I use. I mean, that's the grime that comes off of some of these films, and that grime will depend on the age of a film and how well it's been stored. Some films don't really need cleaning, it doesn't have a big effect on them, but these films have been run through the cleaner, and it's a sort of muck that you get off them, and obviously you get a much cleaner scan if you clean them first. And the stuff I use, generally speaking, is either isopropyl or this specialist stuff, PEG 12 I use, with the proper, PEC 12 with these proper lint-free cloths, that doesn't actually give you, you're not spreading any more grime onto the film, and it's really good quality stuff. It's not cheap, but it's good quality stuff, and it's very labor intensive cleaning films, because you've got to do it manually, and basically I use a viewer, and then you wind it forward through, usually holding that, I would generally speaking hold that like that, then run that through the viewer to clean the films, and I run it through twice. So wind it onto a take-up spool, and I wind it back the other way, obviously on a clean piece of material. And that can make a big difference with the scanning. Sometimes it can make no difference with the the finished output. But I like to do it, and the customer has to pay extra for that, obviously, because of the time it takes to do it. I usually recommend that if people have got older films. Like this particular job I'm doing is a mixture of standard 8, and when you look at some of the writing on here, date back to the 1960s. I saw one was 1967. This one's 75 to 76. So 75 being 15 years old then, so that's a fair number of years ago, isn't it? 50 odd, yeah, no, well, not quite, 45 odd years ago. So and as I say, standard 8 will go back even further than that. Now Super 8 and standard 8 film is still made, so I may even get films come in that are only a few weeks old, but it's very specialist film. It's not made by the major manufacturers, so there's Fuji and Kodak. I think the majority of the film comes out of China these days, but it is still made, and it's made for hobbyists that want to shoot Super 8 and Standard 8 film. 16mm film is still made because there's a lot of well, not a lot, there's some documentaries that are still shot on 16mm, and obviously there's 35mm film that is a cinema film. I don't transfer for 35mm film. That's very specialist, very huge and expensive gear for transferring and scanning 35mm film. I can scan 16mm, Super 8, regular 8, and that's about it. That's the three that's the three formats that the consumer used, you know, and still use, well, some still use. And there is 9.5. I haven't got the 9.5 gate for this particular machine, but 9.5 is another format that, you know, was a consumer format back in the 30s, 20s and 30s. But yeah, so this machine, I've got it set up for scanning to the computer. So let's now get this rolling. And I have to keep an eye on it because you can't leave film running without keeping an eye on it. So click on start, we do that. The leader tape goes through first. And then up comes a film, just make sure we've got that set right, and that is pretty much set right. Well, not pretty much, it is exactly set right. And better go through the scanning process now. As far as color balance and all that kind of stuff, I adjust all that in post editing. When I'm editing it, I adjust for color balance, chop out any black holes, which I've described in other videos. I'll leave a link up here somewhere. It's up here, isn't it? Or is it up here? To my review of the RetroScan film scanner, if you are interested in cine film scanning and transfers. And you can see regular 8, it still produces lovely crisp images. It's really nice images, and that is dependent on how good the film is. Obviously, if you've got a poor film, the scanner is going to be poor. The scanner can't improve a bad film, but if a film is good from the outset and you've cleaned it, then you'll get some really good scans. And I've been using this scanner for quite a few years now. It's had its various upgrades. It scans in HD. No, it can scan in standard definition. That's completely pointless. I scan all of my jobs in HD. When if a customer wants it as a standard definition file, then that's fine. I can do that. But all the scans that I do are in HD, and either scan to scans of a computer, but I either output to DVD. Believe it or not, I still get customers wanting DVD. Many customers still got a DVD player under their TV, but vast majority of work is scanned to either memory stick, memory stick or USB. So sometimes portable hard drive. But yeah, so that's now scanning, and I'm just going to let that run through and finish this job. I'll upload this video so you guys and girls can see this, but I just wanted to explain the difference between Super 8 and Standard 8. And I say the difference really is in the camera that the film was shot in, because the end result is pretty much the same, to be honest. They both come back in these little yellow packets. But Kodak, predominantly Kodak, would send them back from the lab in. That was pretty much it. So here we go. So I hope you found this short video useful and interesting. Certainly interesting, I guess, if you're into film. If you're not into film, you probably don't find it interesting. But there we go. Thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos relating to video photography and modern technology, as opposed to this. Well, this is modern technology, but film is, very old technology. Dates back a long time. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers for now. Bye. Oh, and if you like this video and my flipping smoke alarm, I've got to change. If you hear a beeping during this video as my smoke alarm, I haven't changed the battery in it. I must do that. So thanks very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos relating to video and photography, as I've already said once. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. Really appreciate that. Cheers for now. I'm going now. Cheers. Bye.